I think they're basically, to some extent, catching up, right? It's been this unusual policy for a long time, so they're doing that in a gradual way. They're signaling a lot, same with the balance sheet. So I think it's about right. Of course, it's contingent on what happens to the economy, but it's going in the right direction. They have people, including the current chair, who are trying to indicate what the strategy is.
How much, as well, does the shape of the yield curve currently rely or react to what yields are like internationally?
I think at this point, the yield curve is influenced by global factors quite a bit. After all, the European Central Bank has just begun to end their quantitative easing. The Bank of Japan is doing it still. And globally, there's a lot of unusual action still. There's a global normalization that's going on. And the more that can be predictable and understandable, the better it will be. So far, it's been good for the markets. I think you have the U.S. economy is looking good. It's partly because of this adjustment of policy. I think the tax cut and the regulatory changes are part of that as well. But monetary policy is by no means insignificant in this improved economy.
To follow up on that, how do you think international policy affects the Fed's decisions? When you think about what the ECB is doing in the BOJ, do you think that guides them in a different direction than what people think right now?
I think at this point, the Fed is the one that's begun to move first of the major central banks. And I think their decisions are influencing the rest of the world. And I think you can begin to see that already since it's been clear what the Fed is doing, both with respect to Mario Draghi at the European Central Bank and with a little bit longer lag, Kuroda at the Bank of Japan. And I think the rest of the emerging markets are going to be in the same direction. It's important that this not be sudden, it be understood, because there are ramifications throughout the world on this operation.
Well, on that note, we've seen a sharp sell-off in the Turkish lira, the Chinese yuan as well. Is there starting to be serious risks picking up in some of those economies?
I think, especially with respect to Turkey and, of course, Argentina, I think these are policies that these countries have to get right themselves. There's nothing that's difficult here that a good policy will not be able to fix. The decisions coming up for Turkey are really very important right now. China is a little different. They've moved to a situation where the rate has been able to move more, that is the exchange rate. But as you know, there's been a lot of discussion in the last few days about what they're actually doing. But I think if the rest of the world begins to understand clearly what the Fed is up to, the better off we will be. Those central banks will be able to adjust more smoothly and it'll result in a more successful world economy. Again, the progress in the U.S. is good. Growth is picking up quite substantially. It began last year, and I think those policies are part of what's going on.